Oh, the devil. Oh, yeah. So, in my last video, I reviewed this Yamaha A-S501, and I thought it was a very capable amp. But what I wanted to do was compare it to the amp I've already got, which is the Marantz PM6007, which What Hi-Fi have a bit of a hard-on over. Okay, so they rated this 5 out of 5, gave it a glowing review, and rated this when it came out. Don't forget, this is come out in 2015, 2016 maybe. Rated this 4 out of 5. So they rated it okay, but so what I wanted to do was pit them against each other, because they're round about the same price. This has come down in price, the Marantz PM6007, in the UK anyway. That normally indicates that there's a new product coming soon. It could be a PM6008 coming out possibly later in the year. We don't know, but normally when the prices start coming down and they've got offers on them, it normally means that there's a new product line coming out. They want to get rid of the old stock. This, I think, in the UK, this is about 379, and this is about 399. So the Yamaha is actually a little bit more expensive than Marantz PM6007. So what I want to do is see how they compare to each other, looks-wise, build-wise, and sound-wise. Let's have a look at the fascia first, or the front of it, okay? So, they both have an on and off switch. There's a surprise. They both have a headphone socket. There's the remote sensor there and remote sensor there. They both have off speakers, AB and AB speakers. AB, off, da-da-da. Slightly different setup. This one's got a button which you turn. This has got a button which you press. Okay, they both have bass, treble, balance. One thing the Yamaha has over the Marantz is a variable loudness button. They do have pretty much the same inputs on the front here, but with this one, this lights up here, click, click, click. It's a little bit more fancy, so that lights up there as you go along, whereas this is just literally click into the next one and the next one. So you have the volume button here. Now I will say this volume button, so let me get the remotes. So when you turn the volume up on the Marantz, the volume button doesn't move, okay, it just stays where it is. When you turn it off and turn it back on again, it resets itself to where it should be. Whereas when you turn the Yamaha, it's motorized. It actually goes up and down, back and forth. Right, they both have a source direct and pure direct. The same thing, just defeating the tone controls. And one thing I will say about the buttons is that, especially these ones here, the Yamaha, I can see where they're trying to get at. These are plastic buttons and these are plastic buttons. But these feel a little bit nicer than these, even though they've stuck on an aluminium or aluminum plate on the front of it to try and make it look more premium. But it kind of makes it look like it's got a bin lid on it. I don't know. I'm not fussed on that design. They should have just stuck what Marantz has done here. And just made them all plastic instead of sticking they try to make it look a bit more fancy by putting an aluminium plate on it, but I'm not sure it works for me. One thing I did mention in my review, the thin buttons like this, these thin knobs, okay, they look fine when they're like this, but when you start messing with them, okay, you know, it looks a little bit higgledy-piggledy, whereas on the Marantz, it doesn't matter where you put them, where you put your knobs. Well, it should matter where you put your knobs, but in this case it doesn't. Okay, there's no difference. That might not bug anybody, but it kind of bugs me as well. So when it comes to looks, again, it's down to personal preference, I think. You can see this is a much taller amplifier than the Marantz. The Marantz is probably a little bit more modern looking, whereas the Yamaha's got that retro look to it, which I do like that retro look, that plain look. You know, the Marantz is a little bit busier on the front of it and a little bit more compact height-wise. On the back, they both have phono stages. Okay, there's your ground, your phono. Now this, again, it wouldn't really matter to anybody. This one's a plastic knob, this one's a metal knob. So a little bit more premium there on the Yamaha. You've got your phono, they're gold plated, I think these are. I think these are as well, maybe not. I mean, I've used this quite a bit, so they're a little bit worn in some places. These look a bit shinier. Whether that makes a difference to the sound, probably not. You've got your CD here, and all your inputs and outputs there. Now, what I will say is that I think the layout on the Marantz is a little bit neater, personally for me. It's a little bit easier labelled, a little bit easier to read than the Yamaha. Look, I'm being really picky here. I'm just trying to pick out different things. But they both do have subwoofer outs. But if you look at here, so this is the record out here. It's not obvious, it just says line. Whereas this says recorder audio out, subwoofer pre-out. It's a bit better labelled and slightly larger and brighter, easier to see, with a nice surround around it, and it's all labelled nice, you know, just a little bit better for me. I think that stands out more than this does with the thin white lines. Now with the Marantz, they both have a DAC in them. This has one coaxial, two opticals. The Yamaha has one coaxial and only one optical. Now the speaker knobs, now these are metal on the Marantz, and these are plastic with metal underneath them. And I've got to say, they both look quite nice. I can't grumble with either of the speaker binding posts. Both of them look decent enough. The Yamaha has a DC out, so this is handy if you've got something like a wee mini streamer or something which doesn't come with a plug. It just comes with a cable with a USB on the end. You can just whop it in there, flop, okay, and it powers it straight from the amp. Whereas when I'm using that with my Marantz, I've got to actually plug it into the wall using an old phone charging plug I had. This has an auto power off on it. You can't control it, it just auto powers off when you stop using it. This one here, you can actually turn off the auto power off on a Yamaha. Now in the Marantz as well, it governs the speaker impedance by itself. The Yamaha has a switch in it. I prefer it to be automatic and not have to do anything. I'm not fussed on this switch on the back. I don't know whether it's worth the... I mean, Audioholics, the guy on Audioholics has said, always leave it on high, don't touch it, which I agree with. On the Marantz, it feels a little bit more premium by the fact that you can unplug the power lead and plug it in. The Yamaha has a fixed power lead, you can't take that out. Not that it's a big deal, but it is a bit of a pain in the neck when you're putting it into a stand or whatever, and you've got to try and thread that through. Yeah, get in there, yeah. You know, whereas you can come through the back with that and plug it in. It's a little bit easier that way, I'd imagine. And this remote control, out, in, out, I've never used it. I didn't, you know, whatever. So this is the Yamaha remote. That's the Marantz remote there. I think, again, the Marantz remote, just about to set that in. Marantz remote. There you go. Okay, and the Yamaha remote. They both look nice. They're both functional. But I think the Marantz remote, okay, it's a little bit more classy, sort of a little bit bigger, feels a bit heavier in your hand. This is very lightweight, the Yamaha one. And slightly larger buttons, easier to read. One thing I will say though, possibly these could wear off it long term, whereas the buttons don't have the writing on them, they're just around the side. I don't know whether that'll make a difference long term. This one and this one both govern other equipment. This can do a tuner and it can do a CD player. This one can do the amplifier and the CD player. Right, so we've looked over the features, and I suppose which one you prefer looks wise is down to the individual. You know, do you prefer the more retro look or the more modern look of the Marantz? Totally up to you. You could argue for it, there's an argument for both. The Marantz is rated 45 watts RMS into 8 ohms, and the Yamaha is rated 85 watts RMS into 8 ohms. So you'd expect this to be a tad louder possibly, not a lot. I mean, it takes a lot of wattage to bump it up even a few decibels. So it won't be much, but it is a more powerful amp. So I've done a little sound test using my Dali Oberon 5 speakers. Now, be aware, I think Dali Oberon 5s are pretty easy to drive. So, you know, these amps, even though they're sort of under £500 amps, they should drive my speakers quite easily. So I've done a comparison, side-by-side comparison. I've marked it up. Let's have a listen to the comparison and let's see what we think after we've heard it. So, what do you think? Well, it was close, wasn't it? There was a gnat's poo between them. It's very hard to distinguish between the two. I can't call it personally. Maybe it's my 57-year-old ears, but I couldn't really tell the difference between the two. Very, very close indeed. Now, I will say, from what I've read on forum, I've got no personal experience of this, but I do know that the Marantz is possibly more forgiving of what speakers you match it with. The Yamaha match well with my Dali Oberon 5s, seem to drive them fine, absolutely fine, as good as the Marantz. And like I said, I couldn't tell the difference between them. I've also done a test of the headphone. I've done a test of the phono in both of them. And I've done a test of the DAC as well, using the Wii Mini via an optical into the back of the amplifiers, and recorded that as well. So with the phono one, I can't put it on this video because I had to play a record, and I might get a copyright strike. So I've done a separate video for that. So I'll put a link here and in the description box below where you can have a listen to that if you want and compare the phonos. And when I say that about the phonos, my personal opinion is I think the phono in the Yamaha sounded slightly better. Yes, it did. Not by much. It's really, really close. But I thought the Yamaha was ever so slightly more open. Maybe the mids were a little bit more forward in a good way. I just felt that a little bit clearer. But again, it was so close, it's hard to call it. And anybody, if he went either way, you couldn't really argue with it. With the headphone test and the DAC test, I'll put it at the end of this video. So keep on watching. Don't go, that's enough of him now. I can't take any more of him. He's doing my head in. Keep watching because I got the headphone test and the DAC test there. And again, they're very, very close. You'd be hard pushed to call it. And I reckon if people are going to comment in the comment section below, it's going to be a 50-50 whether people prefer the Marantz or the Yamaha. Anyway, hope you enjoyed my comparison. I hope to do more of these in the future. I'm going to be sending this one back because even though it's a good amp, the Yamaha, and a good match with my speakers, it's no better than my Marantz. Oh, one thing I should mention as well is that I was surprised that I didn't, even though this is 85 watts, 40 watts more per channel than the Marantz, I didn't notice any difference in the loudness or the volume, or it didn't drive the speakers any better than the Marantz did. I don't know what's going on there. And another thing, what confused me was how close they sounded with the DACs, the headphones, the phonos, through the speakers. Just bizarre how close it sounds, and it makes me wonder. And I'm only just sort of speculating here. You know, I could be full of shit, okay? But I wonder whether these sort of amps under 500 quid tend to use the same components because it sounded just too similar. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Come on. Don't forget to keep watching this video for the headphone and the DAC test. And I'll catch you in the next video.
But I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew how much I miss. Stay up, I feel so outdated. How can we look the other way? Sun is out, but the sky is gray. What would happen if I took a chance? It's always hard at first glance. I don't wanna, but I know I gotta do it. The truth is hard to swallow, I think I'll chew it. I miss wish I knew. I like to be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before the new. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. Stay up, I feel so outdated. How can we look the other way? Sun is out, but the sky is gray. What would happen if I took a chance? It's always hard at first glance. I don't wanna, but I know I gotta do it. The truth is hard to swallow, I think I'll chew it. I wish I knew.